Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Sagittarius, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of May 2024. I hope you are well. I'm using the Pagan Otherworlds Tarot for you today. Before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That's the first link in the description box. Second link in the description box is to my private community, the Order of the Phoenix. You know what that's about. I've told you about it loads of times. If you're interested, that's link number 2. Link number 3 is to the 3-month overviews that I've done for each of the signs. They run from April to June, and we are a third of the way through that process now, that time period now. So I have adjusted the prices accordingly. If you are interested in those, you know what to do with link number 3. Right, Saggy. Let's get on with you. I feel like an impatience to get your cards out on the table. So let's have a look and see what's going on with Sagittarius. Can I have 3 cards for Sagittarius, please? There we have the Sun is the very first card out. Can I have current energy, please, for Sagittarius? Whoa, okay. We have the 4 of Cups in reverse. And what about what's coming towards Sagittarius for May, please? La, la, la. We have the 3 of Wands. How interesting. Now I should front up, like I've done several readings already. Ooh, let me just shut the window for the noise. Yes, I've done several readings already. Yours is one of them. And when I went back to go check on them before I uploaded them, there was no audio. Wonderful. So I'm having to re-record them. But that's okay, because it does feel like there's something that shifted in the intervening period. That's usually what it is when I do the readings. They're very rarely exactly the same when this sort of things happened in the past. So that's all good. That was my little parting kiss from Mercury retrograde. Quite glad that that's all over. Anyway, look what we've got down here, Saggy. This is all looking very nice. And I tell you what, as I'm redoing the signs, and you're the 3rd one now, there is, what's the best way to describe it? A lifting of obstructions. All the lights are turning to green and it is time to go. And I like this very much. I particularly like it for Leo because Leo's been swimming around in quicksand, it feels like, for a while. Anyway, let's get some clarifiers out here. Tell me about the Sun. We have the World card, the Wheel of Fortune, and the 3 of Cups. How interesting. Tell me about the 4 of Cups. We have the Hermit. It's Virgo energy. 3 cards here. We've got the Devil and we've got the 3 of Swords. And tell me about the 3 of Wands, please. 5 of Cups in reverse. Wonderful. And last card is the 6 of Wands. We start with a Leo card, we end with a Leo card. How lovely. And we've got a little Aries card there with the Queen of Wands moving forwards. Now, let me just move these a little to the side so you can see what's going on. I think there has been an important shift in you, and I think that the fruits of that important shift carry through into May, which I think we're all fucking canny relieved about, frankly. Now, at the bottom of the deck, on both decks, we have the Queen of Wands here, like I said, Aries, and we also have the 3 of Cups. Now, the 3 of Cups is about emotional support networks. It is your group of friends. It is your social network. It's how you interact with them, how they interact with you. And I seem to recall last month talking about there being some sort of shady characters kind of knocking around, and I have had enough messages from Sagittarians to see that that was certainly part of the experience for April for those people concerned. This month has an entirely different flavour, which I'm very pleased to report, and also an implication that whatever happened didn't just happen to make your life difficult in April. It happened to cultivate some sort of shift in you in terms of the way that you relate to other people. This is not to isolate you or make you, withdraw from people. It probably wasn't so much about thinning out your social circle as it was of just being aware how other people operate. And how that probably isn't in alignment with you, how you want to be moving forwards. We've got the Sun card here, which is a card of great optimism and hope. Like I said, it's a Leo card right there, and it just radiates positivity. This is what this card is about. But in some instances, it can speak to a level of naivete about how much of that innocence gets reflected back to you by other people, right? We have a classic case of not taking anything personally, which is where the internal growth has happened for you. But also an understanding that I sort of want to say it's okay. Like, it's just okay, Sagittarius. And I think that probably most of you have arrived at that conclusion by yourselves entirely anyway. But this Queen of Wands and this Three of Cups is taking a much more measured approach in how you interact with other people moving forwards. It's like there's a heavy emphasis on relationships, but the way that you show up in them and the expectations that you have about them coming back toward you. Like I think the Sun is indicating a point where you have been a little bit innocent when it comes to other people. But what has come back at you has been more about just kind of accepting that everybody is on their own path, and that's fine. And you don't have to take it personally. You don't have to take it to heart. And you don't have to be involved in this in any kind of way whatsoever. Like, we've got the World card there, which is representing an end. And it is a card that represents Saturn, which I think is quite interesting for you. Because, poor Saggies, you've been navigating some of that Saturn-like energy for about 6 months now, or probably longer, actually. The whole chop wood, carry water is very Saturnian in nature, I would say. But it's here with a card that represents Jupiter, you, Sagittarius, right? It's what you were to learn in order to close out this cycle about other people. How you rely on other people, how you let people rely on you, what it is that they bring to the table, what it is that you bring to the table. There's a shedding of a skin, is what I want to say, has gone on here. And normally we associate that with really, really difficult, painful experiences. Because in some way or another, it's changing our reality. Here's a person that I thought I could rely on, and it turns out that I can't. Here's a person who is this, that, and it turns out that they're, incredibly insecure or whatever, and you are the focus of their ire when it comes to their ego trying to assert themselves again. Let's pull out another deck, because I feel like there's quite a rich, multi-layered thing going on here for you, Sagittarius. I'm going to pull out the Wild Unknown. But there's been something really critical about allowing your sun to shine regardless of what you happen to be surrounded by, or the quality of people that you happen to be surrounded by as things stand. That's Wheel of Fortune. We have got the Knight of Swords, beg your pardon. So communication, interesting. And the Knight of Cups. Double Knights. And the Two of Wands. Yeah, see here. This is why I think it's so multi-layered, because in effect, what's actually happened is that you've grown, you've matured, you've learned something, you've moved on from a situation. But we don't have that kind of closure that we usually expect with these things, where we realise, I don't know, for example, somebody's been talking shit about us, or somebody's fucked us over in some sort of way. And that the pain of having to release the hope for what that was, and the, the aspirations for what we had for that particular friendship, and kind of moving into a new space. I feel like that would be a kind of Saggy pivot that you do pretty well, particularly if people have been disrespecting you in some sort of way. But it's like I'm saying, it feels like what's shifted in you is something in your head, and it's okay. It's all right for people to be the way that they are. It does not actually matter. It does not affect you. It does not dim your light. That Two of Wands is there in its sideways presentation because you are neither at a crossroads and neither have you had all, options and choices taken away from you at all. It actually isn't something that requires your input in any sort of meaningful way. And this feels like it's fundamental. Something about the way that this has changed your thinking, about the way that you interact with other people, is fundamental to you moving forwards in a really strong and positive sense. Now, we talked a couple of months ago about the wound of belonging and how Sagittarius seemed to be healing that and having found a place that they belong. Whether that is a literal, physical, geographical place, or whether that's within a group of people. But it's this combination of the Saturn and the Jupiter energy. It all seems to be pushing you towards a maturation. It doesn't have to be that everybody is the same as you. It doesn't even have to be that people are, nice and wonderful and full of joy and innocent and all that sort of thing. They can just be what they are. And you don't have to carry that around with you. And you also don't need to run away from it, which is interesting. There's so much wisdom coming out of your assessment of the dynamics of people. And the reason why it feels wise rather than painful is because of the amount of acceptance that is there with it, and how that does not seem to move you off your particular pedestal that you find yourself sitting on, or your plinth, whatever it is that you're sat upon right now, your foundation, let's put it that way. There's no movement there at all. You are what you are, regardless of whether the sun is shining or whether it's pouring with rain. And what you are is the sun. Well, don't tell Leo about that, because Leo will be pretty pissed off that you've stolen that from them, right? But that childlike enjoyment of life doesn't have to be jaded or tempered or even tainted by people who are not capable of living life on that level. Do you see what I mean? So when we move into your current energy, we've got the Four of Cups, and that's really interesting because it follows on from the Three, and we've got the Three of Cups there twice. And the Four of Cups can talk about abandonment issues. It can talk about, kind of like isolationist tendencies, not allowing people to help you, not feeling a part of something. It can be boredom and apathy and that sort of thing as well. When it shows up in the reverse, like this for me, it quite simply means gratitude. And there's a canny sense of gratitude for what you have experienced, not just now, not just in the recent past, which would be like any time up to about 6 weeks ago, let's say. But a gratitude for the lesson. A gratitude actually for Saturn being a part of what is going on, and even pain that sometimes is caused by this information hitting the heart. Like I said, it feels like it's a rapid growing up, and the wisdom that's come with it has made you much more able to be you. Yeah. So it feels like this, Sagittarius, like that you've almost realised that you've got a gift that you didn't know that you were carrying for all of this time. And perhaps it's a gift for which you've been castigated your entire life. Perhaps you have been accused of being irresponsible or reckless or thoughtless or any of these things, a little bit too adventurous, a little bit too out there. These kind of things. And mayhap there might have been an element of truth in that. But where you are right now, whether it's through the chop wood or carry water that we've been talking about since August last year, there's an absolute recognition that everything that is experienced is feeding into a greater understanding of the world. And that you, Sagittarius, are in this world, but not of it. I mean, let's not face it, there's not too much of a leap for Sagittarius, right? But even though you are not of it, it seems to me that you are very aware of those who are in a similar sort of state in the world, but not of it. And they are your people. But even those who are in the world and of it, have their own little part to play. Well, they are, right, well, maybe some of them are suffering from main character syndrome, and maybe that's what's caused the problem, right? But that's okay. This moves beyond a point of just accepting that everybody's on their path and that's all right. You don't have to be interfered with it, right? You feel to me like you are embodying spiritual principles in such a playful and easy way that there isn't much that is being thrown at you at this point that you can't find a reason to be grateful for it, whatever it is. See, the Hermit card here can sometimes be a card of isolation and loneliness. It can sometimes be a card of, having to go on this deep internal journey of your own. But what I've often said over the last few years is that I feel the Hermit is best applied when we can actually apply it more or less on the fly, like simultaneously with the things that we are experiencing, when you're prepared to understand that every experience that happens, everything that somebody says, every projection that you feel, all these sorts of things are somehow teaching you about yourself. If you can experience all of that and not take it personally, if you can still find the sunshine in your soul and allow it to radiate out, then you're doing something right. The devil here is actually kind of flat. It's very rare that I look at these tarot cards and I see a 2D image on there, right? There's usually movement within the cards. I can see, things pop out of me, that there's depth to them. But it's like realizing that the issues that you've had with other people are kind of like paper tigers. They look quite impressive, they look quite scary, but they don't stand up to scrutiny. It's like a flashcard showing you what your next lesson is. And whether or not that is uncomfortable in the moment for your heart, you seem to have found a way of navigating over it to get to a deeper truth. Now, all of this is very internal and somewhat etheric. It's not a, it's not a situation whereby you can point to it and go, this thing happened this week, and that's exactly what I saw in an astrology reading, or exactly what I saw in a tarot reading, or whatever. It's very internal. But it feels to me like it's created some sort of foundation for you that is much more of you than it is of other people. And we've talked about this a lot, particularly when it comes to things like the inner critic and not really knowing who you are and all these kind of things. It's because we've internalized too much of what everybody else thinks. And we find it very difficult to work out what it is actually that we think. And you've got that World card there. We have got the end of a cycle appearing here. There's some sort of big change that is ahead. Or maybe the big change is something that you've already engaged with, right? Maybe you have navigated that. But there's a deep learning and a deep wisdom that seems to be coming up here to the surface that is allowing you to find who you are and choose how you react to things rather than simply doing it, right? Choosing how you respond to something rather than reacting to something. This is wisdom, this is maturity, this is growth. And like I said, this devil doesn't worry me in the slightest. He looks a little bit like he's waving, like, hello, be scared. And you're like, all right, how you doing? It's not a problem that you're here, it's all cool. We embrace you as much as we embrace everything else. Now, maybe you've been engaged in some shadow work recently. Maybe you've seen things about yourself that you didn't anticipate. And maybe traditionally these would have been things that you didn't enjoy knowing about yourself. But they feel like they've been embraced as much as everything else. And now everything just feels a bit special. Which is awesome, because this is also the word that I used to describe the very first week, well, most of the first week of May, in the weekly videos. It's special, it's intense. But Sagittarius, you're made for intensity. You do that pretty well. And so we move into May. May, we have the Three of Wands. We have the Five of Cups in reverse, which is lovely. And we have the Six of Wands. What we've had is an... oh, this is interesting. I was talking to Leo when I did Leo's reading about the law of equivalent exchange, right? It's given to be a magical theory. But whether or not it actually exists in real magic, or whether it's something that's been invented for games, who knows? But it's actually a principle that I've worked on for most of my life in magical thinking about things, which is you don't get something for nothing. Now, that might be because I'm a fixed sign and I'm ruled by Saturn, right? So I do, Saturn's my chart ruler. So I do have this very serious exchange mechanism going on with the universe. And when I get things from the universe, it's because I've put in the effort, I've put in the graft, whether it is physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. I have offered something and I have got something in return. I would go as far as to say that because the universe likes everything to be in balance, that is actually a really important lesson from magical thinking to take on board. Why am I telling you about this? Because this card is the same one that Leo got. Leo got it actually over there. The Five of Cups. And there seems to have been some sort of exchange that has occurred in the last month. It seems like it's happened for you. It seems like it's happened for Leo. It might have happened for Aries. I don't know. We'll see when we do the video. That's one I hadn't got round to doing yet. Because this card in its upright talks about loss. It talks about grief. It talks about not having the things that we had before, right? So something has been lost, something has gone. But the difference between you and Leo is, I think you've given it up far more quickly. We've got an all-pervading sense of gratitude that seems to be filling every pore that you have right now, right? It's sitting in every cell of your body. And then when we come here, we've got action, we've got movement, we've got experiences, we've got you getting yourself out there. And my God, if there was a month this year to really push at the edges of things, it would be this month, because there's a lot of supportive energy for that. And particularly if you are happy to embrace the darkness as it comes up, whether it's in you or even in other people. Your attention seems to have completely moved away from the instability of emotions, right? Because you could have been really upset about what you've seen about other people, but you're not. You could have rejected what you saw in other people, but you haven't. You could have rejected what you saw in yourself, but you have not. You have stabilized your emotions. And you feel to me like you've grown immeasurably in just this simple recognition. Everybody is who they are. They're on their own path, and that frankly has nothing to do with me. I do not take their projections seriously. I do not take offense at anything. If you carry on at this rate, Sagittarius, you're going to be an ascended master by the end of 2025, and you just need to slow down, because you're making the rest of us look bad, right? However, Three of Wands and Six of Wands makes you feel, to me, to be essentially fucking unstoppable this month. So the question is, what are you putting your mind to, and what is it that you're wanting to achieve? Remember that the one suit for me is all about experiences. So yes, there's a certain physicality to it. Yes, there's a certain doing that is associated with the one suit. And the Three of Wands can sometimes speak of changed behaviour or just sustained effort, right? It's a lower card of manifestation for me. And by lower, I simply mean it sits within the minor arcana, and therefore it is within you to effect rather than kind of being thrust upon you by the universe. The sustained desire and passion to go after what it is that you actually really want to manifest for yourself. Five of Cups is in reverse. There is no sense of anything holding you back, and there's certainly no grief of loss, because what has been offered up is almost like it almost has a quality of inversion about it, because instead of pushing away, you're actually embracing. So the equivalent exchange is, rather than trying to keep a void next to yourself, you're actually letting everything in. Oh, that's profound, Sagittarius. Like, in the past, you might have been guilty of innocence. You might have been guilty of naivete. You might have been guilty of assuming that everybody had the same sunny intentions that you did. And over the course of time, you may have been led to a realization that that isn't correct. And part of the self-protective mechanism has been trying to keep a bubble of air around you so that other people don't get in. They don't taint what you've got in there. But in the acceptance of self and in the acceptance of your own darkness, and how that might be reflected back to you in the acts and behaviours of other people, it's like you've become a student of human nature and you love it all regardless. This is such a weird way for this reading to go, Sagittarius. I don't even know what's happening here. Got the Two of Swords. And the Nine of Wands, which is a Sagittarius card. And the High Priestess. I mean, like, whether or not you're religious, like, forgive them, they know not what they do, feels to be somewhat of a guiding principle that you seem to be working to, right? We've got that two swords there. Does a fish know that it swims in water? You can't know the things you don't know. You can't see the things that you don't see. You know that as well as everybody else does, but you seem to be applying it to your life in terms of the relationships that you have around you. If you manage to go through life for a long time, ignoring parts of yourself, thrusting bits of you away from you and pushing it into the shadow, then one must assume that everybody else does the same. You know this now. And you see so very clearly how other people do not see this. That's a bit of a game changer. Because it's difficult to hold people culpable in that position. You might have done before, you might have judged them pretty hard before, but you realise that you would have been judging yourself to do that. Now, you've stopped doing it. And over the course of May, that feels like that's kicking up a notch. We've got Moon in Sagittarius here with the Nine of Wands. Resilience, good boundaries. Sorry, I'm just looking at these two moons here, and there's that quality of, that moonlight quality of no one really knowing the thing except that which they can know, which is themselves. Your hard edges seem to be being smoothed off a little bit here, Sagittarius, and that's good, because those spiky edges that you had really only barbed yourself, and that seems to me to be what you're starting to see here. This High Priestess being a level of mastery of what is going on inside of you, an openness to intuition, higher, higher self, guides perhaps talking to you, but also that slightly abstract detachment, compassionate detachment. When you're looking at other people's walls, other people's projections, I mean, I feel like I'm kind of labouring the point here. The point is, and this is a big point, Sagittarius, is that this month you feel to me like you feel like you're winning. And it isn't necessarily about anything that you do, except that everything that you do seems to be guided by this principle here. I've even got the fucking Ace of Wands at the bottom of the deck, which is interesting because Leo also had some of these cards too. You're so much bigger than you thought you were, Sagittarius, and you just keep growing. You keep getting wiser, you keep chopping the wood, you keep carrying the water. And everything has this sparkle about it for you. I'm going to leave it here because I want to go over to the extended and dig into... Oh my God, that was my hip. I want to go over to the extended and dig into this a little more deeply, because there is a big shift that's happened with you, and it feels like whatever's gone on in the last 6 weeks, it seems to have pushed you over the finish line, certainly in this aspect of your story. And this makes May a really, really good month for initiation. But the thing is, I don't think you're initiating something new. I think you're seeing something through that you already tried to initiate. And rather than the grind and the hard work that it might have been if it tried to get off the ground when you originally initiated it, it feels more like it's kind of gliding. It doesn't really need a lot of effort to push it forwards. And that's because it's coming from inside here with you. It's not about external effort. And I want to dig into this a little bit more. So if you would like to join me over there, you're very welcome to do so. This has been a weird ass fucking reading, Sagittarius. Even for you, it's a bit odd, but then not. Kind of obvious at the same time. So you can join me on Circle, or you can join me over at Vimeo. I'd be delighted to see you in either place. If neither of those are of any interest to you, just know that there's something... I'm not going to call it the Midas touch, because there are some pretty negative connotations to that story, actually. But it's something kind of sparkly. Like, what you want, you will work for. And what you want will start very clearly materializing in front of you, because it's time for it to do so, because you're ready for it. Weird fucking tractor. Right, I get off here. Right, know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.